afternoon. I am Congressman Ted Poe from the state of Texas, and I want to welcome Prime Minister Garibashvili and members of his administration here today. I'm pleased also to have with us today not only the Prime Minister, but Representative Bill Keating from Massachusetts, who serves as the ranking member on the Europe and Eurasia Subcommittee. I'm glad that our friends and allies from Georgia are here today, here in the United States, because of the importance of our bilateral relationship between the United States and Georgia as well. I've had the opportunity to go to Georgia. I was there about a week and a half after the Russians invaded Georgia and confiscated a third of the Georgian land that they still occupy. And the people of Georgia, just as an observer, I appreciate their tenacious spirit toward democracy, freedom, and also they're looking to the West to be a relationship with the West. They've reformed the military, they've made progress in democracy. Democracy does take a while, as we have found in our own country. And all of these reforms and progress go a long way toward membership in NATO. And that's why we're here today to talk about Georgia and NATO. NATO says they have an open-door policy. They may have an open-door policy, but they need to make sure that people can walk through the door. And we want to make sure that Georgia can walk through the door and become a part of NATO. A lot of folks, maybe in the United States especially, don't realize the contribution of the Georgian people and their military to NATO already. In our international force in Afghanistan. Really, no bond is stronger, in my opinion, between nations than when nations are on the battlefield together, fighting a common enemy and promoting a common cause. And Georgia has done that in Afghanistan. And they will continue to be strong allies of the United States and the other NATO countries in Afghanistan as well. It is important that we encourage Georgia and other countries as well, and we see what the Russians are trying to do in that part of the world as they now looking toward the Ukraine, but that's a different issue we won't talk about today. But Georgia we want to support. We encourage Georgia's membership into NATO. Representative Keating and I have introduced a resolution supporting NATO's allowing Georgia to become a member. We'd like to see this move very quickly. It is a bipartisan relationship, bipartisan bill, a Republican from Texas and a Democrat from Massachusetts. We don't even speak the same language, but we support this concept. We want members of Congress to support this for all the reasons that help not only Georgia, but NATO, but the national security of the United States as well, and our partnership with the Georgian people. I would now like to let Representative Keating from Massachusetts make a few comments, and then our Prime Minister from Georgia will conclude this press conference.
Thank you, Mr. Poe, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. Congressman Poe and myself both have a background in law. Congressman Poe was a former judge. I was a prosecutor, and we share a love for the law, and we share a great love for what's going on in Georgia now. This is an important time, and it's not unusual that the power of what's going on would unite a congressman from Texas and one from Massachusetts. I'll remind Congressman Poe that it wasn't too many years ago that the governor of our state was running for president, and he selected a senator from Texas. So it was the Austin to Boston connection at the time. And they lost, unfortunately, to a Republican, though, from Texas, who, incidentally, I'll remind you, was born, the first President Bush, was born in Massachusetts.
Right, he was.
So you have your history lesson, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you.
It is an honor to be here, and this is such an important time to be here, I believe, because as we look around the world and we look around the region, and certainly look with great concern to Ukraine right now, to the violence that's there, the unsettledness that's there, and we pray that the violence will cease and the country will be whole. We have a terrific example of a country that has moved so fast in the direction of democracy, so fast to bring economic ties together, and a very young man who first started his career at 23 years of age and is now a mere youth, wouldn't you say, Mr. Poe? A mere youth of 31 is here joining us. So, Prime Minister, thank you very much for being here. The Prime Minister and I had just wrapped up a one-on-one meeting where we touched on a range of topics, most notably the importance of strong Western support for Georgia's Euro-Atlantic integration. I told the Prime Minister how impressed I and Mr. Poe and other members of Congress are with the progress that Georgia's made since the end of the Cold War, and especially over the past decade, moving so quickly in such a short period of time. Last year's peaceful transfer of presidential power shows just how far Georgia has come. The Prime Minister and I discussed the importance of Georgia's decision to conclude an association agreement with the European Union, one that I think will be a portal to great progress economically. This agreement will help to consolidate and accelerate the reform process in Georgia, and it also strengthens Georgia's sovereignty and fosters very strong opportunities for economic growth. As it has with the EU, it is also appropriate that Georgia take the next step with NATO. That's why Mr. Poe and myself are introducing a resolution affirming the United States' support for Georgia's eventual membership in NATO. The bill calls on President Obama and our European allies to formally extend a membership action plan to Georgia at this year's summit conference in Wales. The timing of this legislation is not coincidental. I need only to look at the events around the world, as I mentioned, in Ukraine and other areas, to understand the importance of a stronger Western support for aspiring democracies of Eastern European and the Caucasus. With the Sochi Olympics behind us, it is essential that the United States make it very clear our unequivocal support for Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We must also uphold the principle that all countries should be free to determine their own course. Georgia's parliament, in a unanimous vote, has backed the Prime Minister's goal of securing Georgian membership in NATO. More than 80% of the Georgian population agrees. And as ranking member in the House Committee on Europe, Eurasia, and Emerging Threats, I also agree. As such, I plan to work with Mr. Poe and other members of Congress to persuade our allies that Georgia is ready for a NATO membership action plan. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm so pleased that you're with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I want to thank Congressman Poe and Congressman Keating for taking time to meet with me during my first official trip to Washington, and for their amazing support for Georgia and the Georgian people. The legislation they have introduced supporting Georgia's NATO aspirations and integration is a critical demonstration of support from the United States Congress and the American people. My government values the close, strategically important relationship with the United States, and I see great potential for future political, economic, and security collaboration. We're, of course, fortunate to have friends like these two congressmen who continue to support Georgia as it moves down the path towards NATO membership, and Georgia's eventual membership is a critical goal for our country. It will solidify Georgia's security and its place in the Euro-Atlantic community. In addition, this process of moving towards NATO membership has been and will continue to be vital to Georgia's development, and as a result, our military is better organized, better funded, and better managed.
Our soldiers have learned great skills while serving with NATO in Afghanistan, and it has been a way for Georgia to show its solidarity with its friends and allies serving shoulder to shoulder in harm's way. Georgia is now about to join NATO's Rapid Reaction Force in order to contribute even more to the common security. And thank you again for all you have done to help Georgia's truly become a secure, a peaceful and prosperous country. I hope you will come to Georgia soon and we can repay all your kindness and hospitality. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you. Appreciate it.